Welcome to the 2015 NIRCA National Championship Women's Race, the Women's 6K race, here at Masterson Station Park in Lexington, Kentucky. A big field on hand for our Women's Championship as we pan across the start line. We see our teams in the women's field and some traditional powers in contention for the women's title. The Great Lakes Regional Champion, Michigan, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Champion, Penn State, the Great Plains Regional Champion, Illinois. And those three schools have compiled quite a few national titles in the last 9 years. Also in contention, the women from UC Davis out of the Pacific region. And the University of Virginia out of the Mid-Atlantic shouldn't be overlooked, fourth at regionals. But a very strong squad here in Lexington. And the women's race is off.
One of the largest fields that we've had here for our women's, with over 57 different NIRCA clubs represented, so definitely one of the larger women's races we've seen.
Absolutely, Julia. We've seen some big fields in the men's race. This is definitely one of our biggest fields for the women as well. It's great to see the growth for females in NIRCA over the last 10 years.
It's a pretty tight pack too, as they're coming down that stretch hill, folks, and headed toward that first left turn into the soccer loop.
It's a nice flat and then downhill stretch into the first mile of the race.
And it's definitely warmed up now. Very frigid this morning, but nice sunny weather for our racers now.
And here we see the first pack of females coming through, and of course, still a huge, huge pack, but right up front in the blue jersey, you saw Caitlin Johnson of Georgetown, and the conversation for the fastest woman in NIRCA really starts with Caitlin. She's a two-time NIRCA All-American, having competed in only 2 previous NIRCA Nationals. She's also a 2-time Mid-Atlantic Regional Champion and has the fastest time by far coming out of the regionals, going 22 flat at Princeton a couple weeks ago to win the Mid-Atlantic.
Definitely some very fast times out of that region, but Caitlin far and away had the fastest time, beating some of her competitors by almost a minute in that race.
Yeah, Julia, I mean, there were fellow All-Americans in that race, and Johnson just blew them away. 2-3 in that meet from UPenn are not here today. So.
Well, Tommy, who do we have right here now in the front pack?
That would be Kate Carter. Kate Carter of Harvard, the white jersey with the red H on it. And Kate Carter is actually our highest returning finisher in the women's field, having placed 3rd last year. Interesting story about the women's field, 7 of the top 8 have graduated. So this is anybody's game, really. Johnson, obviously, the huge favorite, but so many new faces we're going to see on the podium this year. We see Megan McCongney from Illinois up there, the Great Plains Regional Champion, who's definitely one of the favorites here today to challenge. In the yellow jersey, we see Ann Menifee. That name should sound familiar in NIRCA circles. Ann Menifee, a 3-time All-American at Virginia, now a grad student at Michigan. So the rich get richer for the defending national champions from Michigan, adding an All-American to their roster.
And you can see here, with even how far we are into the race, we can still see we are 5-6 deep across the course, starting to thin out a little bit right now, but very packed course.
Greg, can you tell us what part of the course we're looking at right now?
Yeah, so this is the end of the soccer loop, the flat section in the first mile, and they're about 1K right now, approaching the mile mark, and they're actually about to head into the start straight and go up that gradual hill they came down at the start. So the pack may start thinning out a little bit here at this point, but it is moving quite deep right now.
I'm talking a little bit more about the team race. Illinois was their Great Plains Regional Champion, once again dominating that region. They averaged 23:37 on their home course. Michigan Ann Arbor, another Great Lakes Regional title for them. And really the interesting story is going to be the Mid-Atlantic teams with Penn State and Virginia. 4th at regionals, but much better than that, so expect Virginia to challenge today as well. We're just passing the mile mark here. So we see our runners coming through the mile, and Johnson from Georgetown, still a slight lead in the race, but a huge pack.
It looks like she was pushing as well.
Yeah, she just looks to get stronger and stronger. I watched her at the Mid-Atlantic Regional, and every mile, she just looked a little bit better.
I think we might have just seen a runner go by with no shoes on from JMU, so I hope that she's doing all right out there.
It's an interesting way to run the final 2.5 miles of this race. But
probably not very comfortable.
Good luck to her.
Well, as the runners head from this 1 mile mark, we're really near the start line right here. And they're going to make their way through a short loop that takes them back towards the soccer field that they just ran on. So they kind of run the first loop of the course twice before heading to the back loop for their final third of the race.
Michigan is the defending national champion, as we mentioned earlier, scoring 91 points last year to easily beat second place Illinois and third place Michigan State. Michigan State hit hard by graduation, but again, Michigan and Illinois are probably our top 2 teams here.
And Illinois went 1-2 at the Great Plains Regional just a couple of weekends ago. Their top runner, Megan, really was running with a pack of about 5 women for most of the race, but just kicked it in on that last stretch and beating her teammate in by a good 50 meters at least.
And Megan McCogney and Beth McGreal, the 2 All-Americans from Illinois.
You can see Megan right there as she's on Caitlin's heels. They're heading into a little woodsy loop here that is a nice scenic spot of the course. It's also coming up on one of the short but steepest hills. Runners are actually passing, it's an equestrian obstacle right there. And we hope that they don't try to steeple that log, even if they are steeplechasers in the spring. Looks like everyone's playing it safe, which is good. They're going to head up a short, quick steep hill. You get a nice look of there as Caitlin Johnson heads up. And they'll head back toward the soccer fields.
And there we see a couple Illinois runners in the top 5 already. North Carolina runner, we haven't talked about North Carolina yet, the powerhouse out of the Southeast region. North Carolina, again, easily winning a Southeast regional title. Now, they only run a 5K at regionals. They average 19:41 on that course with little competition and a 41-second spread. So expect North Carolina to be in the mix. Caroline Jennings, a returning All-American for the Tar Heels.
Very interesting down in the Southeast where we typically see a lot of 5Ks for our regionals. So the women coming out of that region don't always have the opportunity to run a lot of 6Ks.
It certainly provides great drama, doesn't it, Julia? Waiting to see who will be better on the day.
Certainly, the extra 1K can be a killer if you're not used to it, not ready for it. Can really change up the race results here.
Also in that lead pack, we saw Leslie Kovach from Indiana University starting to make a move and join the lead pack. And Kovach was second, I believe, at the Great Lakes Regional. A former varsity runner for the University of Pennsylvania, now attending grad school at IU.
Definitely a routine thing for us in NIRCA to see some of our runners either come from one club to another in grad school or maybe be former NCAA runners and start club running in grad school, so we're always very happy to see them out there on the course.
And another Michigan runner, we talked about Ann Menifee earlier coming from Virginia to Michigan. How about Molly Singa? She was a 2-time regional runner-up at Cal Poly. So did some club running at Cal Poly, and now halfway across the country in Ann Arbor, running for the Wolverines, and again trying to boost them to another national championship. And should Michigan hold on to defend their title, it would be the 3rd for the Maize and Blue, and that would tie Penn State for the most all time.
Very impressive.
Well, anytime we're talking about Penn State and women's NIRCA cross country, you're in quite the echelon. Those Penn State teams of the late 2000s were just stellar.
Yeah, the 2009 and 2010 teams, I believe, still hold the top 2 average times, and it's not even close. I think they have a 15-second gap on the next best team in NIRCA. So 3 national titles in the first couple of years of NIRCA for Penn State. A couple half marathon championships, but they've been kind of quiet the past few years. Usually a podium team, but no national titles.
And in the 10 years of NIRCA's history, this is our 10th anniversary. the cross-country championships. There really has only been, is there one time that Penn State women have not podiumed?
Only once, and that was last year. We see coming off this downhill Johnson from Georgetown and McCogney from Illinois still holding strong in the 1-2 spots. Johnson definitely pulling away from the field. Probably about a 5 to 8 second lead there on McCogney and driving.
And we did see Michigan State runner Eric Zimmer up there as well, with white towards the front of the pack there.
Absolutely, and Chelsea Woljeski from Northeastern. Haven't talked much about her. She had a solid run behind Carter at the Northeast Regional. I believe she was an All-American last year, or just on the cusp, and making her way up in the top 15 right now.
Well, there'll be some moves made, certainly, as the runners right now are turning right into that soccer field area again. It's a flat, smooth area with some long straightaways and then a couple 90-degree turns as they round those fields, and really a chance for these runners to get into rhythm and start putting some pressure on if they want to.
Absolutely. As we mentioned, most of the top 10 have graduated since last year. Cara Donahue was our 2014 champion from Minnesota. She ran 22:24 on that East Lansing course a year ago. And again, the highest returning finisher, Kate Carter from Harvard. Some other runners to look out for, Lauren Kettle. We haven't seen her much yet, but she was the top 10 finisher a year ago. Ariana Body from Penn State, a top 15 finisher. So some returning All-Americans. Venus Shabke, the Pacific Regional Champion. Also keep an eye out for her as we move halfway through this race. She's from UC Davis. And again, this is Davis's first trip to Nationals. Talked a little bit about that in the men's race. The first trip, coming all the way across the country. And here we see Johnson really pulling away from the field now, the Georgetown senior. Absolutely perfect form.
Even the top 2 runners there are pulling away from the rest of the crowd. Coming up this straightaway.
Yeah, it really does look like both Caitlin Johnson and Megan McCogney from Illinois here use that flat area to their advantage to get their speed going and move away from the pack. They've certainly put some distance on the rest of the field.
And there we see Carter from Harvard and Kovacs from Indiana, as we talked about. But how about Nicole Duma from Virginia joining the top 5? Duma did not run at the Mid-Atlantic Regional, so another reason why Virginia's place at Mid-Atlantic a little deceiving. She's definitely their top runner, and she's showing it today, trying to lead the Cavaliers back to the top of NIRCA after back-to-back championships in 2012 and 2013 for UVA. So many returning or former champions on the women's team side, and again we've just had some powerful women's teams. We haven't seen as much parity as we have on the men's.
We might really be starting to see that, though. There's so many teams now that are competing well with each other at the regional level, and it seems like we see surprises every year at Nationals.
Caitlin Hammonds of Missouri has started to work her way up as well. Dana Fry from Oregon. Oregon always brings a strong club to Nationals. So we definitely expect to see some Oregon runners at the end of this race contending for medals. Emily Wagner from Indiana, another one of those IU runners who's very strong. A good 1-2 punch for IU.
Well, the lead runners now have gone past the start line, so they've gone up the start stretch after that soccer area, gone past the start line and around, and now they're coming back down to the walk bridge yet again, and they're going to end up making a right here and running the back loop of the course, the same loop that the men ran. The women only run this once in this reverse direction, and they're now in the last mile of the race.
This is a tough part of the course, isn't it, Greg?
It's a long, grinding hill. You can see it's there's nothing steep about it, but the footing isn't perfect, and you're just going on a long straightaway. You can see everybody in front of you, so you're really pushing hard and grinding hard to try to catch everyone, and you can see it on the faces of these runners.
Once again, our leaders have not changed at this point in the race. Johnson from Georgetown, still a sizable lead. McCogney from Illinois. Kovacs from Indiana. Carter from Harvard. Duma from Virginia. A couple Michigan runners up there, as we expected. Ann Menifee and Molly Husinga.
And one of the names we haven't really talked about yet is Bree Ragsdale from University of Georgia. She's up there in that front half as well.
Bree won the Southeast Regional in North Carolina a couple weeks ago. Georgia, a relatively new club in NIRCA, a relatively small club, so what a great win for them individually as the Georgia club continues to improve year after year.
It was an impressive race that Bree ran as well. She was out there and she moved up the entire race from hovering in that mid to high top 10 to moving up in the last mile and winning the race. So.
Looks like Bree ran 19:07 for the 5K at the Southeast, so flirting with sub-19 time. Very, very solid.
Get some nice shots here of a cool part of the course as the runners come down that nice smooth downhill behind the start area, across that footbridge, and then into this long gradual lead hill.
And as Johnson continues to pull away, it's probably worth talking about some of the top times all time in the previous 9 years of NIRCA. Betsy Suda from Florida, our only two-time individual champion, I believe. Suda holds the all-time #1 spot with a 21:27 at McAlpine. And yes, McAlpine was a fast course, but 21:27 is certainly moving. Becky Boyle from Indiana, 21:42 that year. Those are the top two. And then outside of that McAlpine course, Donnell Woods ran 21:54 at the IU course in Bloomington, and Lauren Philbrook from Penn State, one of those great Penn State runners, 21:59. So not many women have ever gone sub-22 in this race on any course. So at the many different courses we've been at in 10 years, very, very few times under the 22-minute mark.
And it's been a few years since we've been seeing times in that 21 range, with those top four best times being only as recent as 2011.
Keep an eye on them. Tommy, you mentioned Donnell Woods and Lauren Philbrook both just cracking that 22-minute barrier at the Indiana course and the Eagle Dress Golf Course in Michigan. And both pretty similar courses in terms of difficulty and how they run time-wise. So keep an eye on what we see from our winner here today relative to those marks.
Based on what we've seen so far, guys, what do you think? Do you have any predictions for how the team results are going to shape up today?
Well, I can tell you, Virginia has had quite a few runners up there, and they may be a surprise to many after the regionals finish, but not to us. We knew Virginia was going to be tough, and they're up there. Michigan having two in the top 5 or 6 of the race right now. Michigan has to be a strong favorite. We've seen a few UNC runners. Penn State doesn't have a lot of front runners up there, but they seem to have great grouping, so keep an eye on Penn State in the team standings as we near the finish here as well. Maybe Illinois too. Illinois, again, 2 front runners, so we've seen a lot of schools with quite a few runners. I believe at this point we've had 5 different schools with at least 2 runners in the top 20.
Could be anyone's race at this point.
Certainly for the team, but I don't think so for the individual, Julia, as we get another shot of Johnson just cruising.
McCogney right after her, and they're running along the final stretch here. And as we come to the finish, looks like Johnson's running strong.
Caitlin Johnson, the 2-time All-American, 2-time regional champion, the Georgetown senior. 22 minutes flat. Caitlin Johnson is your 2015 national champion. 22 flat. That is the 5th best time in the history of our women's championship.
It's pretty impressive on a course that isn't easy by any means, and she pushed the whole way.
Absolutely. And there we see McCogney, a really solid race and a really solid time in second, in 22:21 from Illinois. Great race from McCogney, the Great Plains regional champion. See a little bit more separation here before our third runner crosses the line. And Julia, who's this?
Looks like this is Leslie coming in from Indiana University with a time of 22:41. There you go.
Leslie Kovacs. And we see Nicole Duma from Virginia, 22.46, and Kate Carter from Harvard, rounding out the top 5, 22.49.
And they're coming in, looks like it is Ann Menifee from University of Michigan, followed closely by her teammate Molly, 22.59 and 23 flat respectively.
We talked about that Michigan grad student duo, and that's gonna should definitely help them in the team race. Northeastern's Chelsea Wojcicki in 8th place, 23.04. Beth McGreal from Illinois, 23.05. And 10th place, Bree Ragsdale. Julie, you talked about her earlier. The Southeast Regional Champion from Georgia, 23.05. Bree Ragsdale.
It looked like coming in there in 11th place was University of Missouri's Caitlin Hammonds, time of 23.08. Followed there in 12th by Erin Zimmer from Michigan State, 23.12.
Dana Fry, we talked about the Oregon runners. Dana Fry from Oregon in 13th place, 23.15. She was followed by Paige McCauley from Virginia Tech. And then in 15th place, Penn State's first runner, Jenny Heeden, in 15th at 23.19.
And it looks like another Indiana University runner there in 16th place, Emily Wagner with a time of 23.19, followed by Rose Menihart from Dayton and Tammy Del Pont from Notre Dame with a time of 23.28.
Looks like Wisconsin put 2 runners in the top 20. Wisconsin, the Great Plains runner-up, Rachel Anderson and Rissa Lane going 19th and 20th for the Badgers, before Susan Gogniat from Pittsburgh crossed the line in 21st. Pittsburgh hasn't had many All-Americans on the women's side, so great finish for them, a great mark for their program.
And then it looks like Virginia's second runner was 22nd place, Hannah Zelder, time of 23.23. Peyton Spangler was followed there, another Penn State runner, 23.25. And Helen Morgan from North Carolina was 24th with a time of 23.26.
We see the runners trickling in here underneath our finish line structure.
Well, we must be starting to get some team results in here.
We do have some team results, Greg. And it looks like Penn State has risen back to the top of NIRCA. 121 points. The Nittany Lions capture their 4th national title. 4 titles in 10 years, extending their NIRCA record. Now have 2 titles more than both Michigan and Virginia. Looks like Penn State averaged 23.29 without a single runner in the top 14 of the race, but they certainly packed in their 5 between 15 and, it looks like, 33rd, at least in team point scoring. 15, 21, 24, 28, and 33. Just excellent grouping. A tight spread for the Nittany Lions to capture the national championship here in Lexington.
If there was a textbook for cross country, I mean, that's it right there. Being able to run as a team and run with that depth. You just don't see it very often.
And it looks like in second place with 155 points, the University of Virginia. So the Mid-Atlantic going 1-2, Penn State and Virginia. Kind of reversing the tables. Back in Hershey in 2012 and 2013, it was Virginia first and Penn State second both years. And now it's Penn State first and Virginia second. But Virginia, what an improvement from the Mid-Atlantic Regional where they finished 4th as a team, all the way up to 2nd in the nation to close out the season. Again, 155 points and an excellent 23.36 team average. And Julia, who do we have in 3rd place?
Looks like all of the University of Michigan Ann Arbor's runners have come in at this point. They're going to be our 3rd place team with a total of 163 points. Span of runners there is from 6th place to 74th for their top 5. But an average time of 23.39, which is only 3 seconds off of the University of Virginia's average time.
So Michigan, Virginia, and Penn State, 3 names we say very often in this women's race. Our top 3 teams on the podium this year. And definitely some youth among these 3 teams. And we talked about some of the grad students and seniors, but make no mistake, these are 3 teams that always reload, and they brought plenty of youth to the meet this year, so I think we're going to see them around for quite a few more years on the team podium.
The bar continues to just get set high for women's teams in NIRCA. I mean, you look at those 3 teams right there leading the way.
And again, recapping the race, we have our individual champion, Caitlin Johnson. 22 minutes flat, one of the fastest times ever run by a female in NIRCA. The senior from Georgetown closes out her career with a national title.
And then our national runner-up, Megan McCogney from the University of Illinois with a time of 22:21.
And what a great season for her as well. And Leslie Kovach in third from IU. Just 3 runners we expected to see up there, and they did not disappoint. They ran to their ability.
All right, we're here with
they ran very
Caitlin
well.
Johnson from Georgetown Running Club. She is your NIRCA national champion and with a time of 22 flat for 6K. Just take us through this race.
I was really nervous about it going out too fast. I just really tried to not push too much at the beginning, and then there came a certain point where I knew that girl Megan was going to be right behind me. I just needed to work off her cheering, try and keep that in sight and just stay positive, because I always get in that race mode where I get down on myself, but try to just stay positive and have fun the whole time.
Okay.
I had a good amount of teammates cheering for me, so it helped.
So what was the race strategy coming in? I mean, it's a pretty hilly course, and it looked like you were doing really well in the hills today.
Yeah, we ran at Princeton last week, and I was super flat, so I was really nervous for the last mile. I told my teammates it was going to be super hilly, but I don't know, I just at that point had all the momentum, so I was just trying to remind myself to keep my legs as fresh as I could while I was going through, keeping that in mind.
Okay. Any other closing thoughts on today?
Just want to thank NIRCA and everyone else for being out here. This is the funnest weekend for our team. We absolutely love this, and you guys do a great job. And the whole club running thing is just amazing. So,
okay. All right, good job.
Thank you.
All right, we're here with Leslie Kovach from Indiana Running Club. You came in third, correct, in the championship race here. All right, just take us through this race today.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't feeling that well whenever I warmed up, and so our coach Dustin just told me to go out conservatively with the rest of the team, and then kind of warm into the race a little bit and see how it felt as I went. And I mean, the course is really dry, really great conditions out here today, barely any wind. So I just felt good. Started rolling through mile 1 till the end there. Tried to pick off as many people as I could.
All right. Did you expect to do this well today?
No, I didn't have any expectations going into it. I'm just trying to keep it fun, and so.
How many years have you been running this event?
I'm sorry, how many years?
How many years have you been running here?
This is technically my first cross season with IU RC. I ran track with them. I joined last spring because it was my first year of grad school. So.
Okay. What are you going to grad school for?
School counseling.
Okay. All right. So. Any other closing thoughts on today?
No, it was just a beautiful day. Look forward to spending some time with my team and having some fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good job.
In recapping the team standings, again, we had Penn State winning their 4th national title with 121 points, Virginia in 2nd with 155, Michigan Ann Arbor in 3rd with 163. They were followed by our Southeast Regional champions from North Carolina with 184. In 5th place, the University of Illinois with 190. 6th place was Indiana with 216. In 7th place was Georgetown, helped by that 1st place finish from Johnson with 216 points. 237. Oregon in 8th, Michigan State in 9th, and rounding out the top 10, the University of Wisconsin with 298 points, your top 10 women's team.